There's nothing to do in Pitt's Landing, Michael Warner said, his hands shoved in the pockets of his faded denim cutoffs. Yeah, Pitt's Landing is the pits, Greg Banks said. Doug Arthur and Sherry Walker muttered their agreement. Pitt's Landing is the pits. That was the town's slogan, according to Greg and his 3 friends. Is it? Are you sure? Because we could say it 8 more times if you don't think the reader got it. Hey, everyone, these kids don't like Pitt's Landing. They think Pitt's Landing is the pits. Is the pits. These kids right here, these 4 kids, Greg and his 3 friends, these 4 kids, they think Pitt's Landing is the pits. Is the pits. As always, these videos are from the perspective of someone who didn't really get into Goosebumps when they were first coming out. So let me tell you, this one was always a temptation. That cover, that glorious cover of a nice middle-class skeleton family enjoying a summer barbecue, that was always so enticing. I would write this book in my head about a Full House-style family sitcom about a bunch of animate skeletons putting on goofy costumes to disguise their true nature as they try to make it in the 9-to-5. Father Skeleton would come home from a long day at the office, strip down out of his skin suit and say, "Honey, I'm Bone." Man, the book in my head was great, but I never did read the actual Say Cheese and Die. You can imagine my disappointment when I learned it was just a crap version of the Twilight Zone episode, A Most Unusual Camera. Greg, Michael, Doug, aka Bird, and Sherry are 4 bored friends trying to find something to do. We're introduced to them all at once, so it takes a while before you find out which of them is actually the main character. The group conforms to what I call the Super Mario Bros. 2 dynamic. Doug, whose nickname is Bird because he's tall and lanky, well, he's Luigi. Michael is short and tubby, so he's Toad. Sherry is the girl, Princess Toadstool. And Greg is the boring guy with no distinguishing traits, making him the Mario and the main character. As it should be. If I had my say, all main characters would be named Greg. So these kids are bored, and desperate for something to do, they decide to try their hands at breaking and entering. There's a presumably abandoned house in the neighborhood, though there are rumors that the local weirdo squats there. A man with spindly limbs whom the kids call Spidey. Look, it's been tough for Peter since MJ divorced him. Give him a break. We get an early cliffhanger scare when Greg is jumped by a dog, but it turns out to be a nice dog who has nothing to do with anything and never shows up again. I'm under the impression these kind of things happen a lot in Goosebumps, these nothing scares to add an unnecessary cliffhanger to each chapter. I'm gonna tease into that a lot, but I'm not sure R.L. Stine knew how to end a chapter without some kind of spook. Chapter 9 ends with the character asking for more potatoes. Riveting stuff. So the kids break into the house and fudge about, eventually making their way down to the basement, and it's clear someone does live down here. Bird kicked his way through a pile of empty food boxes that have been tossed all over the floor. TV dinners mostly. "Hey, a hungry man dinner," he exclaimed. "Where does Spidey heat these up?" "Maybe he eats them frozen," Sherry suggested. Like popsicles. Greg discovers a secret panel, and behind it some kind of knockoff Polaroid camera. It has no logos, no words on it at all, no seams, no place to insert film or batteries. It's like a toy. Yet when Greg takes a picture of, which one was it? Michael, yeah. There's too many effing kids in this book. He takes a picture of Michael posing on the basement stairs, and the camera works. It spits out an instant picture that slowly starts to develop. However, shortly after taking the picture, the handrail snaps and Michael takes a 5-foot plunge to the concrete below. He lands on his back, which naturally means he hurt his ankle pretty bad. At the same time, there's commotion upstairs. Spidey's home. The kids make their escape out a back door and run all the way back home. In the panic, Greg realizes he took the camera with him. Oh, and the picture's finally done developing. They take a look, and it shows Michael mid-fall, which is impossible. But between the kids' adrenaline high and the fact that Mike's fall was only a few seconds after taking the picture, the kids figure the camera has a delay or something. They each go their separate ways, and Greg returns home to find a brand new car in the driveway. It was a navy blue Taurus station wagon. Brand new. Dad picked up our new car, he realized. Wow! Greg stopped to admire it. It still had the sticker glue on the door window. He pulled open the driver's door, leaned in, and smelled the vinyl upholstery. That new car smell. He inhaled deeply again. It smelled so good, so fresh and new. He closed the door hard, appreciating the solid clunk it made as it closed. What a great car, he thought excitedly. Kid, relax. It's a station wagon. A Taurus station wagon, which looks like a giant stepped on a minivan. It's not like it's a DeLorean or, a Subaru Brat. It's the car you take on Costco runs. It's the car you use for your independent airport shuttle company. It's a sedan with a big butt. Calm down. But no, Greg can't get enough of the family's new 19 miles per gallon sausage tube, so he pulls out his stolen camera and takes a picture. Only when the picture comes out, it's of the car completely totaled. There's no explaining that one. This camera is doing something weird. Maybe it tells the future. That would be pretty bad because Greg's dad wants to take the entire family on a drive. Greg feels nervous and tries to talk his way out of it, but before he knows it, he's strapped into his seat and off they go. It turns out that Greg's dad is an awful driver, pushing the car out on the freeway before he even knows how to switch on the headlights. Also, he's a speed demon, going up to 75 miles per hour when the speed limit is 55. This is a man who clearly wanted a sports car, but ended up marrying his high school sweetheart at 19. They had their first kid right away, and now his didn't-go-to-college ass works as an assistant manager at Kmart, spending 2 years of savings on a practical, unsexy family vehicle instead of that Lexus SC400 he's been eyeballing the last month or so. I mean, the book doesn't technically say that, but it's pretty obvious subtext. They do almost get into an accident, but the Greg family returns home in one piece. So, what's this camera's deal? Does it tell the future or what? Does it make bad things happen? Greg decides to test it by taking a picture of his brother Terry. Really? Really? You couldn't test the weird magic camera on an empty 7-Up can? You had to point the Polaroid that hurts people at your family? He doesn't even dislike his brother or anything. Greg is just that dumb. Anyway, the picture shows Terry outside, running towards the camera with an expression of panic. Greg doesn't reveal this to anyone and hides the camera away in his own secret panel in his bedroom. I guess secret panels is just standard with new homes, and holy crap! The Korean cover for this book does not mess around. A few days later, Greg and who's the girl again? Sherry, that's it. They're attending a Little League baseball game Bert is playing in. Greg's brought the camera and he and Sherry look it over, but Bert insists on getting his picture taken. The picture that comes out is of Bert sprawled unconscious on the ground. Now Bird's a dick. He keeps pretending to get seriously injured as a joke. Ha ha ha! You should have seen the look on your face. How dare you have concern for my well-being? Losers! He does it again after shortly getting his picture taken. This is a horrible trait for a person to have, and I would never be friends with this kid. But if you're trying to cram in as many end-of-chapter cliffhangers as you can, having a kid who screams, "Ah, I'm dying!" all the time is one way to generate them. So let's watch this little shit get hurt in real life. The batter hit the next ball hard. It made a loud thunk as it left the bat. A dozen people, players and spectators, cried out as the ball flew across the diamond, a sharp line drive, and slammed into the side of Bird's head with another thunk. Greg watched in horror as the ball bounced off Bird and dribbled away into the infield grass. Bird's eyes went wide with disbelief, confusion. He stood frozen in place on the base path for a long moment. Then both his hands shot above his head, and he uttered a shrill cry, long and loud, like the high-pitched whinny of a horse. His eyes rolled up in his head. He sank to his knees, uttered another cry, softer this time, then collapsed, sprawling onto his back, his neck at an unnatural angle, his eyes closed. He didn't move. You ever see the movie George Washington? It's like a funny version of that. Don't worry, he'll be fine. It's at this exact moment when Terry runs up with an expression of panic. Dad wrecked the car. Yes, the pictures have all come true at once. Greg and Terry go to the hospital. Dad's broken some bones and is hooked to an IV, but he'll recover. And it wasn't his fault, believe it or not. Some guy ran a red light when his brakes gave out. So, 4 pictures taken, all showing bad things happening in the future, all 4 coming true. It's not known if the camera is showing bad things happening or causes those bad things to happen, but it's clearly supernatural and one shouldn't be messing around with it. I teased about taking Terry's picture, but I will concede that Greg didn't have enough information to make the right decision at that point. What's more, both Sherry and Bird were eyewitnesses to this most recent hocus pocus, so they should be getting on board the camera is evil choo-choo train. Which is why it's so stupid that when Sherry's birthday party comes up, she insists Greg bring the camera and take pictures of everybody. Sherry should have a good idea by now that the camera is no good. Greg should be 100% convinced the camera is evil and refuse to bring it. In fact, this book is in desperate need of a you can't get rid of the cursed artifact trope, because otherwise there's nothing stopping Greg from just chucking it into the nearest dumpster. Sherry argues that, since all 4 of them broke into the house, the camera belongs to all 4 of them. Hey, we all found that gun. Now come to my party and shoot all my friends with it. Greg does bring the camera to the party, but he's pretty nervous about it. Greg swallowed hard. And I had a dream, Sherry, last night. Huh? What kind of dream? Sherry asked impatiently. It was about the camera. I was taking everyone's picture. My whole family. Mom, Dad, and Terry. They were barbecuing in the backyard. I held up the camera. I kept saying, say cheese, over and over. And when I looked through the viewfinder, they were smiling back at me. But they were skeletons. All of them. Their skin was gone and... Greg's voice trailed off. What a dumb dream, Sherry said, laughing. Oh, come on! Look, once I got the gist of this book, I figured the skeleton family thing on the cover was going to be a nightmare. But are you seriously telling me that we couldn't be bothered to actually write the nightmare? Have the readers read the nightmare? This horror book couldn't be bothered to show us a scary thing. We have to hear it explained after the fact. And then we have that scary thing mocked by another character who, by the way, should be scared of what the camera can do by now. Well, fine. If your characters don't care about the spooks, I won't either. Blah blah blah, Greg takes a picture of Sherry, blah blah blah, Sherry's not in the picture, blah blah blah, Sherry disappears. The cops are called and we get an extended scene where Greg has a conversation with an officer named Riddick, and he tries to explain the camera to him, but Riddick clearly doesn't believe him. The amount of detail that goes into Riddick's character makes you think he's going to be important later on, but he never shows up again. This is something that's probably going to come up a lot in this series, so let's address it now. I'm not a huge fan of the whole the parents never believe the kids thing, but I'm not sure how to resolve it within the genre of children's horror. On one hand, it can enforce an idea with readers that adults won't believe you, so don't even bother. Oh, Uncle Jesse touched you where he shouldn't have? Well, none of the grown-ups in these Goosebumps books you read ever believe their kids. Neither do the cops, so why should they believe you in real life? The counter-argument is that if the parents did believe their kids, they would step in and resolve the conflict themselves, perhaps with a greater level of competency than the 11-year-olds. Animorphs made it work because its plot means the main characters don't know who to trust. Their parents could be agents of the enemy. I don't know how to resolve it for Goosebumps, but it always just leaves an icky taste in my mouth. When Greg returns home, he finds his room a wreck. Somebody's been in it, and they were looking for something. No doubt this was the work of Spidey. He wants his camera back. Greg gets Bird and, oh god, who was the fat one again? Michael! Yeah. He gets them together by the baseball diamond, try to figure out what to do. But before they decide on anything conclusive, here, in chapter 23, 2 whole new characters emerge from the shadows. He recognized them immediately. Joey Ferris and Mickey Ward, 2 ninth graders who hung out together, always swaggering around, acting tough, picking on kids younger than them. Their specialty was taking kids' bikes, running off on them, and dumping them somewhere. There was a rumor around school that Mickey had once beaten up a kid so badly that the kid was crippled for life. But Greg believed Mickey made up that rumor and spread it himself. Both boys were big for their age. Neither of them did very well in school. And even though they were always stealing bikes and skateboards and terrorizing little kids and getting into fights, neither of them ever seemed to get into serious trouble. Hey, shouldn't these guys be off ineffectually antagonizing the Power Rangers? Joey and Mickey. A bully named Mickey. I'm sure people take him very seriously. They mess with the protagonist kids, try to steal the camera, but Greg and his friends get away. Greg figures the only way to get rid of Spidey is to return the camera to its exact location, behind the secret panel in the abandoned house. But he can't really find the time, and, well, Michael and... Doug, whatever. They're basically out of the book at this point. Frustrated and scared, Greg ends up tearing the photo he took at Sherry's birthday party. Actually, there were 2 photos. He took 2 photos at the exact same time. It seems like a rather pointless detail, but, that's beside the point. The point is, have you ever tried to tear a Polaroid? It's impossible. You have to burn them like in Memento. Greg destroys the photos, and almost instantly, Sherry returns to her home. She has no idea where she's been all this time, no memory. She just blinked out of existence for a while, and destroying the photo reversed it. That seems like an important rule of the camera that will come into play later, like someone takes a picture of someone else and will only rip up the photo if they do what they say, but nah, it never comes up again. In this book, at least. I know there's a sequel, no spoilers. Once the dust has settled with the police and everything, Greg and Sherry start working together to get the camera back into Spidey's possession. So, it's weird that when Spidey shows up and starts chasing them down the street, they don't just give him the stupid camera. They end up getting saved by a neighbor, another guy who gets a lot of detail in a name, Jerry Norman, and yeah, he doesn't show up again either. I just do not get why Greg has to sneak back into the house to return the camera. He thinks Spidey should have the camera, despite the harm it can do, but he just can't give it to him. So he and Sherry sneak back into the place and try to put the camera back, but Spidey's waiting for them. Spidey finally explains what's going on. Spidey, whose real name is Dr. Fritz Fredericks, the real horror of this book is that name for anyone with a lisp. He was a scientist who worked with the guy who created the camera. Fritz stole the invention and claimed it as his own. So the original inventor dug in some dark magic and cursed the camera. We're going straight up sorcery here, and it's that magic that causes bad things to happen. I'm not sure what the original invention was. A camera that sees the future, a camera with infinite film, I don't know. But the camera is now evil and indestructible. It's ruined many, many lives. People have died. So Fritz guards it and sees that it does no more harm. Which leaves us with just one unanswered question. How does he cook all those Hungry Man dinners? Greg quickly climbed to his feet and motioned for Sherry to do the same. Well, I guess it's good we returned it, he said hesitantly. Sorry we caused so much trouble. Yeah, we're very sorry, Sherry repeated sincerely. Guess it's back in the right hands. Goodbye, Greg said, starting towards the steps. It's getting late and we... No, Dr. Fredericks shouted, startling them both. He moved quickly to block the way. I'm afraid you can't go. You know too much. I can never let you leave. So, are you adopting them or what? He never really threatens to kill them, just tries to keep them from leaving. We're going to be a wacky TGIF sitcom family, or else. There's a bit of a tussle, and the camera accidentally goes off in Fritz's face, causing him to freak out. The kids run away, but realize they aren't being chased anymore. Returning to the basement, they discover Fritz has died of fright. And the picture they took? It's of Fritz, dead of fright. Greg puts the camera back and they call the police, saying they just stumbled onto the body. Everything seems right with the world. That is until we see Joey and Mickey exiting the house, the camera in their hands, taking pictures of each other. The end. So, why doesn't Say Cheese and Die work? Because it really doesn't work. Part of that is just sloppy writing. Character management is a mess here. We keep getting introduced to new characters with first and last names and full physical descriptions, characters signposted as important who turn out not to be important at all. We didn't need 4 main kids. We could easily have condensed Bird and Michael into one character. There's also a moment where, for 2 paragraphs in the middle of a chapter, we switch to Sherry as the point of view character, which is just total amateur hour. We get a lot of showing and not telling. I will never forgive this book for not giving us the nightmare scene that's on the book's flippin' cover. Why did we not get to read that, but we got a pointless dog attack cliffhanger? One is a skeleton family, the other is a dog licking a kid's face. You are a horror author, R.L. Stine. Tell me, what's scarier? Character motivations don't make much sense. Why are we putting this dangerous camera back where you found it? Why are we burying it or tying it to rocks and dropping it in a lake or something? And yeah, that all sucks, and it should have been picked up by the editor. This book has a slapdash written in one evening on store shelves in 3 days feel to it. But there's a bigger issue than all of that that's at the core of the story itself. Why would anyone use the camera? Once the nature of the camera is discovered, it should pose zero threat to anybody because only an idiot would keep using it. After Bird got beamed and Greg's dad got into an accident, there is no longer any incentive for the characters to take pictures. Only a moron would keep pointing this thing at people. So the back 2/3 of the book is the main characters being morons. In short, our main characters have no motivation. Motivation is important. It's what drives stories. There should be a reason behind each action. It can be a misinformed reason, a wrong reason, characters are allowed to make mistakes, but a third of the way into this book, the motivation is gone, and nobody has any reason to do anything but get on with their lives and let the camera gather dust, not hurting anyone, not being scary. So how might we motivate our characters into using the camera? There's a few ways. We could change the nature of the camera. Well, let's say that every 5th picture it took, there was a positive outcome. You take a picture of yourself, it shows you holding a $50 bill. 3 minutes later, you find a $50 bill on the sidewalk. Sweet! But you have to burn through 4 pictures that cause bad things to happen first. And what's more, you can't just take pictures of dirt clods to burn through your bad pictures. There has to be a subject in the picture or the camera just won't work. Sure, you get away with it for a while taking pictures of squirrels, all of which quickly become roadkill, but there's this test you forgot to study for. You need to get an A to pass the class, or you're going to be in serious trouble. You could take a positive picture of yourself and almost surely ace the test, but you still have 1 negative picture to burn, and you're stuck in school. Shit. Well, there's that quiet janitor nobody likes. Maybe it won't be so bad. Another way you could do it is to make the camera a straight-up weapon that empowers the main characters. Introduce Joey and Mickey in Chapter 1, Page 1. Have them chasing our protagonists down the street, threatening to pound them. Instead of breaking into the abandoned house and possibly harming the reader's sympathy with them for shits and giggles, have them hide in the house to get away from the bullies. Throw in some other antagonists. Make the dog actually be a mean dog. Have a mean neighbor that yells at Greg for walking on his lawn. Nasty teachers, older brothers pulling pranks. Just people making life a living hell for Greg and his friends. And now they have this camera. And when you take someone's photo, something bad happens. Joey breaks a leg. The dog gets run over. Brother's prank backfires. Suddenly, Greg and his friends have power, and power corrupts. The camera is not a threat on its own. It's only a threat when it gives people a reason to use it. Say Cheese and Die should have been a story about power, corruption, and hubris. The camera is not the monster, the people who use it are. That's how the Twilight Zone episode "This book is a blatant ripoff" does it, but I guess R.L. Stine didn't realize that. He just thought, evil camera, cool, and didn't bother to find out how such a story might work. Say Cheese and Die is thoughtless. It's sloppy and it's empty. It's not quite as bad as Monster Blood, but it's also somehow much more boring than Monster Blood. I don't know. Goosebumps still eludes me. I give Say Cheese and Die a losing scratch ticket out of 10.